Leary. And we have the annual report on our green communities, Northern Middlesex Economic Development District designation application, the letter of support. We will have an update from the chair of the Historic Commission regarding 273 High Street. Police chief here to discuss proposed stop sign locations. Contract for the open space and recreation plan, the consulting contract with NIMCOG. Repairs to the library, a contract change order, Union Building exterior restoration, amendment to the contract for architectural services, an appointment of the Conservation Commission member, Bridget Pontbriand. And then section 15, off premises, all alcohol license renewal, Dunstable Liquor LLC, the 238 Pleasant Street. So is there anybody from the public speak to anything, questions, comments that's not on the agenda? None. Move on. Okay, next up we have the appointment of Teresa O'Leary to serve as our treasurer and tax collector. Thank you very much for stepping into this position. That's very pleased with that.
We just need to make a motion.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, she's highly qualified.
Yeah.
We'll be sharing her with Pepperell.
I move to appoint Teresa O'Leary as treasurer collector for a term to expire on June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Thanks, I'm excited to be here.
You've got the best office in the building.
It's the coolest right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to endure the meeting if you rather go out in traffic like everyone else on 100
I will
degree day.
listen to it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I understand.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, bye now.
All right, the Green Communities Annual Report. Are you doing that, Jason? Or?
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of breeze through this, and if the board has questions or anything, this is a requirement of the Green Communities Program.
Yeah.
We're joined here today with NEPCOG representatives, Megan and Michelle, who, let's be honest, put this together for me to walk through. Real quickly, we all know NEPCOG, and I will take this opportunity to just say that we are very fortunate to have NEPCOG as our partners. They are, if you kind of walk around town or you walk around the projects that are happening in town, almost every single thing that's happening or is in a queue to happen has their fingerprints on it. So we're very lucky to have them as our planning agency and our partners on a whole lot of things that are happening right now. So thank you for that. So as you know, we're a green community designated. We're designated green community. We've used the Green Community Program in the past for weatherization projects, for LED conversions, and most recently in 2024, and I think in 2023 as well, we used it to help us purchase a hybrid police cruiser. These are the criteria for any and all green community designations. They've kind of listed out some of our energy usage. As you'll see, Town Hall is our largest user of energy in town, and corresponding highest emissions. This is the most recent project. We are currently working with Michelle and Megan on trying to advance other weatherization projects. We just recently have engaged with National Grid and I don't know, what are they called? They're subcontractors that help kind of audit buildings and then make recommendations on how we can make the building, or each of the municipal buildings and facilities more energy efficient. And so out of those audits come reports on weatherization, reports on systems, reports on controls. And so we do have some recommendations, the first of which I think we're going to look to implement weatherization recommendations. for town hall, for highway garage, and for the lot. That's all she wrote, unless anyone has any questions or comments.
First project that we did.
Yeah, but what about within the buildings? I know, so the opportunity for,
What is that?
It's Ann, I'm asking who.
Who is it?
So Ann Davis is gonna be joining us remotely to talk about Forest Cemetery.
Yeah, and she's not on leave.
Right.
Didn't we do LED lighting in all buildings?
Not here.
yeah, I know there's some grant opportunities for that.
Did the PD, I know that was done.
Yeah,
So I did just want to note for the LED lighting, Green Communities only funds that for school buildings.
okay. Oh, good to know.
I'm
All right.
sorry, they still, can you repeat that?
For school buildings. And is that new though?
It's a fairly,
Fair- yeah.
yeah, they used to,
Yes.
that kind of was like a big project, a lot of towns when they first became green communities.
Okay.
That's kind of what their first like low hanging fruit, I guess we call it.
Yeah. Oh, cool, all right, just figured,
Yeah,
you know.
and we
go through
did,
the
as you know, I'm kind of working now on the street light
Mhm.
stuff, so there was a project.
Yeah, it took me to think of it, actually.
Yeah. And so there's still some stragglers that need to be converted, so that's something we're working on right now to accomplish.
Well, thank you for the work on it, thank you guys for the work on it. I don't have any other questions. We have a motion we have to make for this, or?
No motion, no nothing.
Well, you do have an item on here, but what?
That's
Yeah,
letter of
that's
support.
that's coming up.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Northern Middlesex Economic Development District Designation Application Letter of Support. Do you want to speak to this or not? We can just read over it. No? Okay.
I'm interested in open space.
Yeah. So this was something that we actually, this is a renewal of an application, so we, this, I believe we did this, it was either 24, 23. So this is just renewing their application to, for Northern Middlesex Economic Development District designation to the federal government. So they just, in order to apply for this designation, they need, a letter of support from each community in the NEMCOG region.
I think it looks like they started in 2021. NIMCOG applied for the EDD status in 21, so with support from the 9 communities in the area, so.
May of 21.
Okay, you can read your motion.
No, I don't, and so just from my understanding, this letter's gonna get transferred over to Dunstable letterhead?
Yep.
So-
Yep.
I move to authorize the chair to sign a letter in support of NEMCOG's effort to designate the Greater Lowell region as the Northern Middlesex Economic Development District by the United States Department of Commerce, Economic Development Administration.
Second.
Any further discussion? None?
Question.
Sure, Joan?
What goes along with that? Anything?
I'm definitely not an expert on it, but I think part of the reason to endeavor to get this designation is to open up the world of grants, programs, technical assistance, et cetera.
Well, I have no doubt that that's the carrot. I'm just curious as to, you know, what other, what we might be opening ourselves up to otherwise. As far as,
Oh, we don't lose any local control or anything. Yeah.
Essentially, it just creates opportunities for federal grants, though there are almost none available at this current time, which is a shame, but that's the hand we're dealt for now. And as a region, you can apply and go after them. So like in Townsend, I'm writing grants for them for FEMA, even though FEMA is about to be abolished, for like floodplain resistance and such like that. but you do it as a region, sort of the goal with MRPC is who they're using. So just something to be a participant with and see where it leads. So.
Yes, I think it's not just for local grants, it also helps them, secure grants for support there.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that brings us to 473 High Street. An update from Historical Commission Chair, who's joining us remotely.
Yeah, give me a second. Let me check.
You want to take any out of contract, please?
She was on.
She's on, she's just waiting for, but she's,
What is she waiting for? For us?
just, yeah, why not?
We're there.
We're ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can hear. I can't, is anybody there tonight?
Yep, you're good.
We're here.
Okay, good, all right, thanks, Sue. Well, I just, wanted to provide a quick update. The Historical Commission met last Tuesday and we, I had not, the commission had not met since, prior to the, site visit. And also, the last time I met with, you all. So, everybody is definitely, very on board with preserving the house and, but a lot of questions came up at the meeting. We did not take a vote. People, I think, had concerns about how this was going to be done, using CPA funds. And Joan and I, Joan cooked up a wonderful letter to Stuart at the Community Preservation Coalition, and wrote him, and I provided some questions that had come up during the meeting. There were several questions. First of all, is this something that can be done using CPA funds, and is it possible to sell the property with a restriction? And then another question that came up at the meeting is it possible to use CPA administrative funds for putting a preservation restriction in place? And then I'm just trying to remember the other questions, but Stuart, I think, is in process of he's talking to Joan, and Joan may know more, and I think she's there, right?
Yes.
She is.
Yes, okay. But that's kind of where we are, and I sort of felt like the group was not prepared to go ahead with this until we sort of got some answers from CPA. And I know there's a precedent. Joan shared that she had spoken, or she received an email with Stuart that there is a precedent that was set in Draken for the Richardson's farm, and there was an old house associated with that, and the town raised something like $2 million in CPA funds and purchased the property associated with the historic Richardson farm, and put restrictions on the house and sold the house after they were able to put those restrictions on the property. So that's my update. I don't know if you all have any questions. Joan, you might be able to add more to this.
I still have not heard from Stuart, though I expect to, he's pretty good about, getting back to me, so, right now, just what, just what the email said, and that he shared, he sounded optimistic.
Yes, he did. He sounded optimistic, and that was pleasing. We were wondering if I remembered the other two questions. could the money from the sale of the home with covenants be returned to the CPA Historical Reserve Fund after the sale? That was a question. And then we also asked him the question whether there could be potentially selling a house lot in the very back of the property as an affordable unit or at market price to recover some of the CPA funds used. I mean, that was another question that came up in discussions. So that's where we are right now. And I invited Tim Joyce to come to the meeting, and he has been through this, of course, before, having purchased from the Trust for Public Land the Ferrari farmhouse, and that was in tough shape, and he restored that. And I did throw out that number of $500,000 to him, and he said, you know, I did a lot of the work myself, and he didn't come close to sort of spending that amount, but you know, I don't know what I don't think that I can't say how the conditions of the two houses compare.
No,
We don't.
But
they don't compare, yeah.
Yeah. And I did call the realtor after the last select board meeting because I wanted to get a sense of what the septic situation was and the water source. And she said that it was the well in the basement, and she wasn't sure what the septic was. So she, you know, I didn't feel like I got much from her, so on that front. And I'm hoping, I'd like to have another site visit with Tim Joyce and take some photographs as well, for documentation for the Historical Commission. I think that's an important thing to do. So that's my update.
Where are we with the timeline, Jason? Are you
August 15th was
the deadline for us to notify them? So
No,
To
oh,
so August 15th is the deadline to have authorization and funding in place.
okay.
Yeah.
So between now and 15th, we need to have a special town meeting.
I know.
CPC has to have a meeting, special town meeting to approve purchase using those funds.
Yeah.
We need 2 weeks prior to a special town meeting to set that date.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the clock's
So I
ticking
know,
very
I know.
quickly here.
The clock is definitely ticking, but I really want my board on board with this whole thing, and some of the board members did have some reservations, and I feel that I think Stuart's questions are going to provide them with comfort.
Did we ever get a written report from the historic,
Toby's.
whatever, I can't remember his first and last name, the person
No, you know,
who went through
I
that?
thought a lot about that, and I think it's gonna be very difficult to get a written report from anybody, because, you know, let's say the work turns out to be a lot more than whatever the person provided, you know, I think you don't, and I don't think that should be something that makes us shy away from this. I think that there are a lot, you know, everybody's idea of a restoration is different. You know, I'm just trying to think of a good example. For example, I live in a house that has one bathroom on the second floor for a family of 4, and you know, that's, I think to the level of restoration is a very personal matter, and I think you know, are we talking granite countertops and, you know, modern day house up and running, you know, the costs are very different. And so it's hard to make an exact assessment of that. And also, one does not really know what the cost is going to be of a restoration. So, and the town would not be taking on the responsibility of the restoration. It would be the person who buys it. And as Tim said, he felt comfortable as a person that was familiar with older buildings, purchasing that property and restoring it.
But at a certain number, right? Or like a level, like, because the town's gonna buy it to exercise our first right of refusal and then sell it off to XYZ restorations for them to do the work. And we have to come to an understanding of what that number is, so the town's not belly up, right?
Absolutely.
But I think we're preserving this house to preserve it because of the association with Amos Kendall. We're not preserving it to, you know, earn a certain level of, a specific amount of money off the house, are we? I mean, I think what our mission is to preserve the house because of its association with Amos Kendall and the land around the house, so that it stays, you know, it doesn't get demolished, which it will definitely happen if I have a sense of it, if we just sort of walk away from this.
Has advisory board met to discuss this? No.
No, it hasn't appeared on their agenda. Their last meeting, they did discuss it under new business because it didn't require any action. So they have discussed it, but it hasn't been on any of their agendas.
And if we weren't at a point for CPA to make a recommendation to the select board, who meets again next July 15th. And by that point, you're 2 weeks from a special town meeting.
In 2 weeks to.
Fundamentally, we're almost out of time.
It doesn't give you much time to begin with. It's ridiculous in a way.
And I don't know. Because we did an assessment on the Union Building, and that we felt very, you know, people felt very strongly about that restoration because we had the time.
Yeah, I understand the differences between, you know, I agree with you. I mean, that is an anchor in the center of town. That's an anchor building. Its location is so important to preserve because of its location and its community use. I think that this was just an 18th century farmhouse that was located as it is sort of near the edge of the town. I would say I would not be pushing for this. I think I'm passionate about it because it's of its association with Amos Kendall. There are not many people in town, historical figures in town like him that sort of merit this sort of preservation. But I think, do we want to let that piece of history go? I mean, that's what we're going to be doing, I think, if we just walk away from this. And it's a hard one. It's a really hard one.
I mean, are there other ways to memorialize this house that are significant? You know, not just a little piece of plaque, but.
Yeah.
Well, I've thought of a lot of things. I mean, could the house be moved? Could we kind of move it to another location somewhere? But I feel there's an association with the landscape, so that's a hard one to justify.
I mean, I know I came back to that concept, I know Mr. Cheney had a question, about creating like an open space subdivision plan up there on the right-hand side before you get down to where the cows used to be. And like that Larkin family buyer seemed somewhat curious about if they got a fourth building lot out of it, they would save the house. Do we have any appetite for that type of proposal? And we can't, it's up to the ZBA to make a decision on that, but we could write a letter of support from the select board, right? And if they save the house, they get another lot, you know, it's the carrot.
We don't have the
I
time.
have asked on a number of occasions for something written from this family, and they have not provided anything.
Yeah,
And I feel that putting a subdivision up there also sort of defeats the purpose of what we're trying to preserve, which is the farm as well as the house. The farm is such an important part of Amos Kendall's heritage, and you know, with 50 acres already preserved, and the landscape there as it is, or with surrounding the house, as an agricultural landscape, it's sort of tough to think of putting a subdivision there and keeping the character of that area.
Amos Kendall Estates.
oh yeah, I mean, right, like, so Joni just said Amos Kendall Estates, and, you know, my head goes to, you know, you have a little cul-de-sac with 4, you know, 3/4 acre lots, like you do on some other subdivisions in town.
You don't have the time.
We don't have the time for anything, though.
We do.
We do have time.
Close, but you certainly don't have time for that. I don't think that you have a legal justification for it before the ZBA. I mean, where's the hardship? Let's get real. The ZBA is gonna do its job. You know, it's basically Bishop and Bake on, you buy it, you sell the house with covenants, you sell a 2-acre lot, and you keep the back line lot as open space. And you don't sell that 2-acre lot as affordable, no one's gonna buy it. Affordable is up. Okay, it's historical and open space. And you get a chunk of your money back. And one of the key questions is, and we assume that the answer will be yes, the money goes back into the CPC fund. That's a key thing for several people. Okay, so basically, and with regard to what do you pay for the house, or what are you getting, can you sell it for, and so forth and so on. We know from Uber Toby's, basically, 100 grand for structure, 400 grand to bring it up to living standards, so on and so on. Now, we know that there were several parties interested in buying the house and restoring it, but they could not take on the $800,000 for the whole parcel. They were just interested in the house. Are they still out there? Are the people like them? What would they pay? I know, but it's a fair bet that you would find someone who would be willing to buy it and restore it, as long as the covenants were not overbearing and dealt primarily with the outside appearance as opposed to what went on inside. Okay, it's somewhat of a gamble in terms of how much CPC money you would get back, but I don't think a big gamble. And as Ann says, you know, you're dealing with something that you have to say, well, are we the kind of town that is gonna make an effort to do this, or are we gonna come up with enough worries and maybes and so forth that we walk away from it? It's, the proposed project has evolved from thoughts of saving the whole property and this, that, and the other, and all kinds of ins and outs and so forth. But this is what the committee, the historical commission meeting basically wound up with.
But you're saying, don't save the house.
No,
Yeah.
I'm saying you do save the house, you sell the house to someone who will restore it, and you put covenants on such that the outside appearance, if Amos Kendall walked up and say, yep, that's the house I grew up in. But inside, logically, it would be completely modern. Now, there are some nice wide boards and some other features, but it's not a grand old house. It's just an old house with grand historical connections. That's all. No, you would not, and the town doesn't want to own a house. So that's what you would do. And, as I say, it became very clear at that meeting that the affordable housing angle is out. It's just not a viable deal. But assuming that one can do this under the CPC rules and so forth, assuming the town would turn around and sell that to a lot. Okay, so in other words, you get half a loaf rather than the whole loaf, which is kind of what life is like. It's a compromise. How do you come out ahead? You save the house, you save some open space associated with it so that it looks, rather like the Fletcher Place or the Butterfield Place, in other words, Bob Fry and what's up there, the best place. You get a little bit of open space associated with it, so it doesn't look like an absurdity with, a couple of big homes right packed out next to it. But you get some significant money back. What's that 2 acre lot worth right now? 275.3.
Yeah.
What's the house worth? 250, 3? Take it from there.
Thoughts, Ron?
Yeah, I don't, this has still got some work left to it. We gotta get our numbers together on it, and, I mean, it's a nice idea. I'm just not certain at this point that the timeline is in our favor. I think it's against us significantly.
Well, we
And
had
whether or not, if the deal is that we're gonna buy it for a specific price, and it sounds like from listening to this, and I haven't seen numbers, that we're gonna put a covenant on it and sell it, and probably sell it for less than we bought it for.
we'd be buying the whole 11 acres,
Yeah.
$750.
Yeah.
And what are we paying for the house on its lot, on a 3 acre lot? You can't say precisely. So do you get your money back or most of it? Get most of it back, all of it? It's impossible to say.
But we would then end up with,
But the idea was
Land
that
in the
because of the time,
And the
because of
preserved
the time constraint.
house that is preserved.
And it's gonna go out for bid. You can't private sale.
Yeah, we can't just
You
call
can't.
Kenny Leva and have him
No,
sell
you
it.
can't.
So you have to RFP it out.
Yeah, it's gonna go for bid.
And we have to RFP the work that needs to be done in it to get it up to this.
Well, I think the thought is that we're gonna put the covenant on it and sell it as is.
Yeah, we're not doing the work.
We're not doing any of the work. It's gonna go, we're gonna buy
Oh, yeah,
this,
that's right, yeah.
we're gonna, put a covenant or restrictions on it, and then sell it at
As
bid,
is, yeah.
as is.
That's right.
And we're out of it at that point. Now, the only risk here is, and I'm just having discussion, I don't know how much money there is in CPC, because the Union Building's coming right behind it, looking for a chunk of change to do the interior work. And I don't know whether we got enough money to do all these things. I don't know. I really don't know. But there's.
Well, that would be something to find out by attending the CPC meeting. However, the interior, and I don't want to take the time on this, and Jason knows more about it than I do, but with regard to the interior work, there are confirmed $200,000 lined up, $150 from the school district, $50 from the grant, thank you, Jason. And the Historical Society is interested in spending some money there as well. And then we would be looking for more grants. There's not been a lot of talk that I'm aware of on CPC, going to CPC for much money on the interior. That's a possibility.
Depending on
We're
what's,
starting that process.
depending on what's done inside, you know, if it's not a historical, restoration,
That's right.
the
Can't use
CPC
CPC for that.
Well,
can't be used.
if, I'll say, put it this way, if there's a way to use CPA funds for the interior, we will need to.
If there's a way.
Yes.
The other point is that, of course, we've been saying for
Gonna
20
be more
years
than next year.
on.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, twice.
And the Flat Rock payments wind up in 26.
August 26th, we're all done paying for the Ferrari property.
August 26th of the current year.
2026.
26,
Okay,
Thanks,
26.
2026, I'm
Right.
sorry.
The thought was that you needed the month of June to hash it out and see if it was doable, and that meant getting the answers from Stuart, we still don't have them. And it meant, hopefully getting a CPC meeting, well, it's early July now. And then, you know, again, if the board of selectmen need to meet and they don't meet until July 15th, well, maybe they can call a special meeting.
Absolutely.
You know, but you have to, basically, we need to reach a decision in June based upon information that we don't have entirely, yet. We got quite a bit, but we need. And then the month of July is line up your boards and get your expertise lined up to make this thing happen, because it's things that I don't know how to do. When we did Flat Rock, who did Flat Rock? Who sold the house?
We worked with TPL.
TPL did.
Yeah.
They sold it. They had people in-house who were all about writing, covenants, historical preservation covenants. They had the lawyers, they had everything. And the town didn't sell it. That is a hurdle. That is something, you know, you need someone who knows what they're doing to guide the town in these steps. It's not rocket science, but it's, you know, fairly demanding, and everyone there on Jason. So, and then if things continue to fall into place, we go for a special town meeting and beginning of August.
So we essentially need you need answers from Stuart for a CPA, for another CPA meeting. And then to have your CPA committee vote to approve the town making, exercising their first right of refusal on the High Street property. Then we need an advisory board meeting to say they're on board with this.
That would be good politically. They're not, I mean, it doesn't affect the tax rate. It's not their mission, as I've been told many times, is to revise on the things that affect the tax rate. This doesn't. Nonetheless,
It would help.
It's silly not to have your planning board and your other boards behind you. If you can't line them up, I mean, I do the same thing on a conservation purchase. I would never go to the town meeting if I had, even though there's no town, no impact on typically on the open space purchase.
Yeah.
Do on the tax rate.
Okay.
Courtesy.
Yeah, and they speak and they sit up in front and they offer advice when things
Exactly.
come up. So we would need CPA, Stuart, CPA advisory select board, and then schedule a special town meeting for like the first week of August, basically. And then we would need probably a few days to have the vote ratified, so we can so we can allocate the funds to the high street owners. I just don't know the vehicles that go behind that. If, in the event that we were to get, CPA to have everyone on board, have advisory, because I agree with Alan, like having advisory support is important for us, for CPA and for the town as another check and balance here of life. And then for us to meet the week of 4th of July, basically, in order for this to happen, even though that's next week.
I don't know.
Do you, Jason, did advisory have any specific, I know there wasn't a full presentation, but did they have any specific concerns that they're waiting for answers on?
Nothing specific that I remember.
We don't have any hard numbers, other than the 750 plus, let's say, $10,000 to $12,000 worth of closing costs the buyer would have to absorb on that number. So it's really 770 we're looking for to be safe.
The advisory board meeting was reported.
Are there closing costs when it goes out to bid like that?
Yeah, because there's
Is
going to
that
be,
the real estate?
yeah, there's going to be title fees, legal fees, and transaction costs,
Okay.
yeah, because it's taking a private parcel, and there's a few things to go behind that. And we would need like a good faith estimate from town council to give us what it could be.
One thing that bothers me that I don't know the answer to, and Stuart will tell us, is, okay, I think that the parcel with the house on it, not a problem. The open space parcel, not a problem. Buy a parcel and turn around and sell it for at full fair market value, just to help fund the whole thing. Private land trusts do it all the time. Can the town do that? I don't know.
It's a good question.
Can the town do it?
I don't know.
I think it's gotta go to bid.
It'd have to go out as an RFP,
Yeah.
and that's
I'm not talking about the process of putting it up to bid. I'm talking about, can you use CPC money that way? And then
Right, if we purchased a whole parcel with CPC and then sell that for,
I don't know.
well, that was the question, is if we did that, would the money go back into CPC?
Well, that's another.
Yeah,
well, that, we have to survey it, you gotta mark it off, you
so
gotta.
there's already a plan,
I found
subdivision plan.
an example in Newton of it's not identical, but it's similar. And I do believe that the money of the sale would go back into CPC money.
It would, yeah,
I think that's how I read the Newton case.
yeah.
So I just pulled up the process again, just because there's been a lot of questions about that. Just for you to see and have it from.
And we're not voting on it tonight, per se. We don't have it's not a notable
I have all the
item.
information to go on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
None of us do.
Right,
Yeah.
but we could either, support the decision to proceed.
we don't know we're proceeding now.
Yeah, well,
I don't,
Continue the investigation.
yeah. Which I think is worth doing. Let's get all the info and see where it brings us. But if we can sort of press some of these people for information.
So what time, obviously I need to schedule a CPC meeting. What is the timeline again for a town meeting, or when do we have to have this? I'm assuming Stuart is gonna get back to us soon, okay? He said in his email there.
Yeah.
So, you know. So how far out can I schedule this CPC meeting to discuss basically what he comes back with and get a determination?
I would be trying to get CPC to vote and to vote on a recommendation the first week of July.
That's next week.
But I mean, Stuart's got he's got 1, 2, 3 days to get back to you on Monday. And then you post a meeting for CPC Monday, the 30th, to meet on the 2nd. And then we could potentially meet the 8th or the 9th to say, here's the plan, here's what CPC is asking. And we can decide if we're okay with it, what our plan of action is and our questions. And then advisory should also be meeting that week. So they're looped in and fully informed on what the numbers are, just so they're supportive or asking questions. And then we gotta schedule a special town meeting. We gotta publicize this a bit because it's summertime and people are away. And we wanna make sure a good spectrum of the town attends an August or a July 31st meeting, basically, or a July 29th meeting.
When's the deadline, the 15th of August?
25th through the 30th.
Yeah. And then we have to tell the sellers and their realtor that, you know, let's figure that's like the week of the 11th of August if this were to come to fruition.
It would help if there was someone who had been through this sort of thing somewhat before to shotgun. We don't have anybody, quite frankly. Certainly I'm not the one. I mean, yeah, I got some information. We all have some. I don't know, is there a public spirited real estate attorney who perhaps sits on the board with you already, who might be interested in helping out?
I'm not a real estate attorney.
Nor am I.
Well, I have to go to the water board meeting tomorrow. I'll find out.
All right, good. Matt? Tiffany, you have a question?
Have all the CPC designees that were appointed been sworn in yet? Because I don't know how much of a board they're gonna have in a few days.
Fair. I wish there was like
I don't think I have.
a plan B, or plan F, some other way to,
Yeah,
because I'm on board with saving the house. It's like picking our poison, like we have to either save the house, save the land, and then we're in a short amount of time. Like what's more purposeful for the town? And you know, with the union building coming up for CPA funds and some other goals that CPA probably has for trail renovations and restorations and all that great work, like we have an affordable housing project that still shovels aren't in the ground and
well, that's affordable housing bucket that wouldn't be used for this.
yeah. But you know, we also just asked for an override.
Well, but again, this wouldn't come from
Yeah, just
the
optics, you know?
general, yeah. But there are a lot of people that do have an interest in position and stuff.
I'm just curious to see what are we, is there a specific end result we're looking for with this?
Yeah, Alan kind of illuminated it where it was, buy the entire 11-acre parcel, then shave off a buildable lot, which has been sort of roughly approved. It sounds like an A&R, but don't quote me on that. then we.
There is an A&R.
Yeah, so we would sell off that lot, and then we would put covenants on the home to be sold, and then it would go out to bid to preserve a historical home, or restore a historical home in town, and keeping the land as such, as this is pastoral land.
Is there a way for us to do that without actually buying it?
Not really.
Not really.
There's a way to save the house, again, I'm quoting the Larkin guy who came here way back when. He's like, well, if you give me another lot, I'll save the house. And, that was all kind of word, wasn't it? There's nothing in writing to
You
support
can't
that.
just give him another lot. It
Right.
just doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not really
one
pragmatic.
could imagine, perhaps, a different, party to deal with than the ones who actually have made the accepted offer, the Larkin Development Family. I'm sure there are other people, but I have dealt with people who were more excited about open space and historical preservation than they seem to be. But so be it. Working with that family doesn't seem to be something, that would work. So we're kind of back into this approach.
We're in a corner.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, unfortunately. And we don't have all the, sources of information sort of ironed out in terms of how this ends up.
The house is still under a demolition delay, I believe. Correct?
Yes,
I'm sure this is,
until September.
so I don't suppose this is probably really reaching, if there's any way to request an extension to that 120-day right of refusal. No.
I don't know if it's pretty
Yeah.
blocked.
And I doubt they would. Tiffany?
So I just, as a chair of the board who uses and relies on CPC, I do have concerns about this, knowing what's going on with Harbor Field and the money that's going to need to be spent once we get a review of the property completed. And I also, in all honesty, this probably isn't popular, but I feel like it's a bad look to do a purchase like this when the town, and I know, believe me, I understand CPC is not gonna affect the tax rate, but to take on an endeavor like this, when we're in the situation that we are every year financially, I just think it's not worth it.
And that's been spinning through all of our brains too, so appreciate input.
It's like trying to thread a fine needle right now.
Yeah.
We're not feeling great about it either.
The point here is though, that, we have a historical figure, and I know, probably a lot of people could care less about historical figures, but, I think a little extra effort needs to be put into this to see what we can do. We can schedule a CPC meeting, we can see what the committee says. We will be there to make your point. We can talk to Stuart hopefully before that, so we'll see what is possible and not possible. But I sent him an email that described our situation pretty well, I think, and he sounded very optimistic that we could, with Ann's questions included, he sounded very optimistic that there was something that could be done. So, let's just, we'll take it as far as we can go and we'll see what happens. I personally, it's that old saying about a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. This is something, if we can get our money back on this, then I think that's, I think it's worth pursuing.
Do we have to get our money back? I'm asking the CPC folks, because say this costs us $770,000. that's my guess. And then you sell a lot for $250, because it won't come with a drilled septic or a drilled well or a septic plan in hand.
It's just.
So it's a $250,000, that's what it'll fetch. And then you're selling the house for $100K, basically, with covenants on it.
So you get some back.
So then you're down $420K. Is that okay? Is that, I mean, you guys are CPC representatives?
I haven't.
Not asking you to be on the record,
lately, but I believe in, just in the undesignated, alone is, somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million.
Okay. So,
Just in undesignated, there's never any money in the open space and recreation. Because these guys are.
And that leads me to, Jason had kind of gotten a pencil and paper estimate on larger guesses, right? And was it really low?
so I wasn't aware of that, but that adds more flavor. Like throw an Old Bay on the equation.
And when we get to talking about the, union building, the cost of that, the estimate for the work on that has, come down quite a bit. So, you know, I mean, and like I said, with the fact that the Ferrari property is gonna be, off the books here pretty soon, and, you know, I think we need to move forward and see where, see what we see.
All right. Is there anything else we need to discuss on this? I think yeah.
Are you allowed to appoint me as the parks designee tonight? Because no one's gonna appoint you yet.
I don't know, can we, I mean,
I don't think so.
It's not on the agenda, so
We
it's
know.
not votable.
Topic's not anticipated.
next meeting's the 14th.
15.
So, 15th, so we'll get you on that. All right, well, I think, I'm in agreement. I think we should see what we can figure out. I mean, I don't want to just throw my hands up and walk away. I think I would like to get the information to Stuart. I think the CPC should meet and see where they are. And go from there and see if it makes sense.
How can CPC buy it if there's no public? It's for under historic, right?
Yes,
Okay.
historic and part in general.
Historic and open space,
Okay, because you're gonna preserve the middle acreage or whatever it is in between?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're gonna create parking to get up and in there through the stone wall?
Yeah, we have to, but it has to be.
Yeah, okay. We have no vote on this, so.
No, there's no vote. I think it's just, let's keep rolling. All right?
Yep.
On to the next.
You bet.
All right, thanks for joining in.
Thank you, Ann.
All right, next up, proposed stop sign locations. Chief? The whole pile of them.
There is a whole pile, yes. So, this conversation kind of started back in Winterfest last year with you guys and
oh, God.
two at your house, Joe.
Might say something.
Yes, you did.
We started, this conversation back then after we had that accident with Winterfest, at the intersection of Oak and Maple. So after that, I kind of did a ride around town, looked at all the intersections without signs. There's quite a few of them. I also spoke with Dave from Highway. He pretty much had these same roads on his list that he said he had kind of talked about before. But the signs hadn't gone out. So anyway, this is the list that I came up with. All of these roads intersect with a major, a busy roadway. And I think we're putting ourselves in a situation where if we don't have a stop sign and there is a bad crash there, what does that open us up to? It also makes it difficult for us when it comes down to finding fault at crash. for somebody, which they're looking for at some point, when we have an accident, especially somebody gets hurt. So we have Thorndyke Street, if you want to go to the pictures. And I can only take credit for the main picture, Jason's put them on the front stop signs and stuff. Because I don't know how to do that.
What a Photoshop wizard.
So this is Thorndyke Street at 113. I mean, that is one of the busiest roads in town. We just did a traffic study. There's 13,000 cars a day, on average. And if you're new to the area and you're not familiar with where you're going, and we know everybody is just looking at their GPS these days, especially Amazon and Uber and Lyft and all those things, there is nothing there that says you need to stop. Common sense, yes, but that does not always prevail. So that intersection there, I feel needs a stop sign at both sides.
Can I ask a quick question before? Does just, in your experience, having a white line painted there, like a stop line, provide?
I don't know if that's legally enforceable, just a line.
Because it does indicate to the driver usually that, you associate the two.
Until it snows.
Do you need the stop sign and the stop bar together?
Question, I don't know.
Because that, all of this really kind of reverts back to road commissioners too, because those stop bars, I think David paints those himself.
He does.
Yeah. Does
And he has, from when I talked to David, he has a surplus of signs right now, so it doesn't look like.
I did tell him that he's aware of it, he's been sent those, he didn't express any concerns.
I also think, because we're getting to hands-free driving, if there isn't a sign that's pre-programmed into the car will keep going.
That's impossible.
So if there isn't a stop sign, because the way the Tesla cars work and the Waymo cars work, it's based on what's up, and they've taken pictures.
Yeah.
And I know tons of people now are looking at their phone or they have their hands, either.
I've seen people reading books on the highway.
Yeah, so like,
Tesla drives them.
it's just where we're going technology-wise, but I'm not like it's what Teslas don't.
It's where we'll all
And the
be
pickup trucks now, like my friend has a hands-free Denali. Thing's a monster.
So-
He's like, oh, I don't have to put my hands on it.
So if you get in an accident because you're reading a book and your car is driving itself, it's our fault because we don't have a freaking stop sign?
Well, there's no liability. Like
Huh?
you said, if there's no stop sign, then you're not at fault. It doesn't tell you to stop. People are idiots. I'm an idiot. Sometimes driving too. I'll be self-deprecating.
I've heard that.
It's on the record. I'm recorded. A little owl got me.
Let me move on to the next one.
I'm only an idiot when I drive my wife, it's really weird.
French Street and Main Street, it's on a fairly, it's kind of a corner there, it's kind of hard to see in the picture. But it's also kind of blind, you can't really see well in both directions. Again, it's on 113. I don't think there's a road that intersects with 113 that shouldn't have a sign. Hillcrest and Westford, if you want to knock one off the list, so I can give you this one. But it is a pretty good cut through. People do use it in both directions, because you can see better at that intersection than Westford Street, even with the gate design. Pleasant, Maine, this is another one. I take this one every day when I come to work. If you don't stop
Is
there.
there a stop sign yet?
Not there.
Yeah, but that's a good spot for it.
Yeah, we do. You cannot see more than 10 feet past that other lane. So there is no way that you should not stop there and really take a good look. And I don't know when this picture was taken or who put it up, if it was me or somebody else, but I'm pretty sure we're at a crash right there in the center. That's why the fire truck and the police truck and the police, are there. And this is going the other way. This one has a better line of sight. This is looking left towards Town Hall. With the yield sign would be appropriate there. You do have a pretty good vision.
Remember, there used to be a yield sign when you're at the stop sign that's there now, it used to be a yield sign.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Joan, don't look.
Two stop signs.
But yeah.
One for you, one for Harold.
Yeah. Keep it, keep it.
Don't put that, yeah, put that back.
But again, North Main Street's it's a busy road, it's a 40-mile-an-hour zone, and again, nothing there says that you need to stop.
Can't you just put one in the center island?
No, I think actually,
No, 'cause they're gonna stop. They're gonna
I
stop
think there should be a
before
blinking red light.
Well, first round,
Right at Depot in Maine. And have that flash.
flashing all night long.
Yeah.
Sure, that can go with the street light that shines in my, big window all night long. It's wonderful. How big are these signs gonna be?
Stop signs.
Signs I've seen big and I've seen smaller.
Whatever highway has.
That size, it's.
Like a
Millet Fletcher is also no stop. Yet there's a stop sign at Fletcher Street on the opposite side.
Get Aaron's tractor and get the chain out.
So here's Mill at Oak. This is the intersection we had a crash. If you go to the next picture, it really illustrates. Oh, I'm sorry, no, that's not the next picture.
That is,
That is the next one, I'm sorry.
the other, this one is kind of, I think.
Yeah, this is the one I was thinking about. Look, the intersection there, we measured it. What was the width on?
155.
Yeah, 155 feet across that intersection. This intersection, in my opinion, needs a curb needs to be brought off the edge of the road and brought out. And then a stop sign put, and then maybe inside of the curb, they can put green space. Hardy Street at Thorndike. It's a heavily traveled cut-through road, I know. Some people may not.
Everybody's gotta go to Lilac Blossom somehow.
And sometimes when they're coming back, they need to remind them to stop. And the view again, going down the Thorndike Street from that intersection is not great. Woodsport recently paved, I know a lot of people don't live down there, but we do have, parking area for conservation down at the end and stuff like that, so we are gonna get outside visitors, to come. And that corner, no one's going to actually go to 25.
That's one of the most dangerous approaches. You can't tell as you're heading towards Pepperell where that road is, where Woodsport is. Something needs to be done.
Oh, yeah.
It's closer to, the leader's house. And of course, it wouldn't be a problem flying towards you and, oh my, what the accident rate is there, but it is.
Fortunately, it's low because there's not many people that live on Woodsport, so there's not.
I'm talking about people who, yeah, and ones who live on Woodsport know damn well they're gonna be careful when they take up the home down Woodsport, but my gosh.
I feel like that's time.
Yeah, it's
touching.
very similar, yeah. Coming down the hill, yeah. Thorndike and Forest Street, again, on a curve, they're both low-speed roads, but we have had crashes there before. Sorry, that's it. And, yeah, so that would be the view. You can't really see to your right, especially with the hard angle, if you're taking a left on the Forest, looking back, you can't see oncoming traffic coming from that direction where that car is coming from. The other way you can see pretty well, that's why we just put the U-turn.
That area was treacherous during the Route 113 project and rerouted through there. I mean, people drive on the wrong side of the road all the time. They think it's, no one else is on these roads.
Yeah, there's not even any lines to designate which side of the road you're supposed to be on.
I mean, you think we should figure that out by now.
And then, we just had the incident a couple of weeks ago, Tingsboro had a pretty bad crash on Route 3 and shut down, and pretty much all of Route 3 was coming through Dunstable. That wasn't backed up or clogged, and these are all drivers who are the roadways, now coming through town.
Wait, turn that back, wait. Now, just look at that beautiful vista there. And, imagine, just see what it looks like without those nasty signs. And now,
I get it, I understand, but I mean, you put signs up for lots of stuff. We have wildlife crossing, we have turtle crossing, we have all sorts of things like that to protect the wildlife, but we're not protecting the people who are driving through our town.
Ironic. Would this be an opportunity, to I saw this on one of the platforms about not, or maybe it was an email to us about not allowing trucks to cut through like large, like there was a tractor trailer on Thorndike, I think that email said.
I mean, every now and then they get rerouted because something's happening on Main Street.
Yeah.
You can't avoid it.
And then the other problem you run into is people get deliveries from Home Depot and it comes on a flatbed with a little
Or
forklift.
people move or whatever, yeah.
Now, Mayflowers parked in the street and they're loading up, and
Yeah,
you have a farm that operates close to Thorndike Street and is in and out of there with his large trucks on a regular basis. If you make it no trucks, then what does that mean for him?
And then the trash trucks.
yeah, okay.
And the oil trucks.
What about, Hall Street in Groton where they meet there right by Larger Field? There's not a stop sign there,
There's a yield
right?
sign there.
Yeah.
That's another intersection that could go for a whole redesign.
That's not on the list.
No, because it has a sign. I gave that one a pass because there is a sign there. But at some point, David has spoken to me about it before, that if he had his way, we would do that, not within that. So you can actually see
Yeah,
on traffic, because you can't see it now.
and they have that great machine that does a good job cutting back for visibility purposes, but like, you know, they're having to do it every year now, these things seem like bittersweet,
Yeah,
everything grows so
What they do is
fast.
the stuff has been growing so fast right now, it's
Yeah.
back in a week or two.
Yeah.
I've noticed that in the room. And then this is the other one, again, not a lot of people down there. But we do have the Christmas tree farm down there, people are coming off that side of Ham Street.
Yeah.
There's a stop sign on the opposite side, if you can see the line, you can't really see the sign. But there should be, especially with the school traffic, there's a lot of traffic on Groton Street.
But that people try to beat the bus across.
Yeah, sure. So those are the spots that I thought were of importance. I don't have any crash data or anything like that specific intersections.
No, I think these are all valid. I like that mentality of protecting our citizens as much as we protect the turtles that I love, so. That's all I got.
I think that, you did a good job. It's long overdue.
Yeah.
A couple of those intersections, you know, over the years, I've been to crashes and, you know, a couple of them were really bad. And I don't know how it is that the one that was most fairly recent was at Oak and Main, right? I think, you know, that was involving a Uber Eats driver, I think, or
Yeah, some sort of delivery.
some sort of delivery service. And, you know, she's got significant injuries that are, some of those are
There are
permanent.
multiple people injured in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way it is. So I think this is a good effort in terms of trying to create that safe environment that we want. As far as the signs at Main and Depot, at the very least, there should be that red blinking light on the sign.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I'll be glad to pay for those, by the way, and have them installed.
You'll pay for it, all right.
You just have to put them at the other end of Depot Street,
Yeah.
your end.
There is a
Yeah,
stop
that's,
sign.
I don't care down there.
There is a stop sign.
Oh, okay.
There is,
Change it
all
to
right.
flashing, just.
I'm, move to approve the new stop signs and yield sign locations as proposed by the police chief.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on. The open space and recreation consultant contract, unfortunately, the NIMCOG folks were here, but they had to leave, so.
Those are two long debates, so.
Too long
I don't
debates.
blame them.
Yeah.
So we received a technical assistance grant in the amount of $20,000. So this contract will be funded through that grant. As I think we all know, we're going through the update right now of the OSRP. we got the extension thanks to this hard work with updating our action plan. So we do have an extension for 3 years, but we're still going through the process to update it more comprehensively and fully. So this contract will allow us to do that with NEMCOG support.
Yeah, no, that's great. We need to keep this thing up to date.
No
Maybe
question.
we
And
need
we
the
have
help,
a second public forum tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, we're on Zoom,
So
6 o'clock.
join us.
I move to approve the contract between the town of Dunstable and Northern Middlesex Council of Governments in the amount of $20,000 for professional services to assist the town with updating its open space and recreation plans.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, repairs to library contract change order by ATE Painting.
So the work actually is complete at the library. It looks really nice. There was some work, there was one door replaced, exterior door replaced in the back of
Electric
it.
one.
In the back, yes, exactly. And as they replaced that and repainted it, we realized that some of the other, the nice new shiny door looked out of place with it compared to the other exterior doors. So we had them paint the other exterior doors. And so that work was not included in the original contract. So this change order is to cover that up.
How big was this contract?
$39,900.
And he needs another $850 to paint 2 doors. All right. I mean, I understand the door, painting those doors is necessary because the sun will cause that door to swell or expand in a day like today. You might not get out of those those other 2 doors are egress doors from the building. That's, the electrical door gets you into the utility room and the main electrical room, but those other doors are how you get out in the event of fire alarm goes off or whatever. So I get it, and I'm okay with it.
It wasn't the only change that was submitted to us. This was the change that we.
Okay, I'll take my contract to hat and throw it in the trash. Move to approve the change order to the contract with ATE Painting LLC for repairs to the library in the amount of $850 for work to prime paint the building's exterior doors.
Second.
Further discussion? None, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Union Building Exterior Restoration Amendment to Contract for Architectural Services by GNAP Architects. And this is specifically to increase the amount of site visits for GNAP to come out and monitor the building project.
That's right. This adds an additional not to exceed $5,000 so that we have sufficient presence on site to monitor the work being done
Yes.
at the Union Building.
Great idea.
I just want to ask, while we're here, I know I'm kind of going down the same path, but off. I would like to see the submittal log and the RFI log.
Yep.
As well as his schedule.
I will send it to you.
Because that RFI log and that submittal log is telling,
I'll send that to you.
right? And I'd like to just see if we can get our hands on that. And then this $5,000 number, it's an NTE at 5,000.
Yeah.
Correct.
What's it gonna do? Just bill us, is there an hourly
It
rate?
is on the second page. Yeah.
I should have known, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, okay. I'm okay with that.
It's a good idea. It takes it off Jason's plate to go over there with his sledgehammer and stuff and monitor work himself.
Oh, yeah.
And let the architect do architecting. So that's.
There's a level of expertise you're gonna
You
get
might want
with
to do
GNAP.
some of those
All right. There a couple
We can send him over there.
Yeah. We bought him binoculars, by the way, so he's the other day doing this. He's checking on that project. Move to approve the contract amendment for architectural services with GNAP Architects for the Union Building Restoration Project in an amount not to exceed $5,000 to support increased construction administration services.
Second.
Further discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Has the work started over there? I know
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
equipment over there.
Started last week, last Thursday, I think.
They mobilized.
Yeah, they are.
I saw the equipment there, I just didn't know whether they were, had started work.
Yeah. They are at work.
All right. The appointment, next up is the appointment to the Conservation Commission of Bridget Montbriand. This had come up 2 weeks ago, I believe, and there was a question about whether or not she had a conflict of interest, and it's been determined by powers that be that she did not have a conflict.
Cool.
For being, an employee of Neshoba Health and under contract with us, with our Board of Health, so.
I move to appoint Bridget Pontebrand to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2029.
Second. 5-year term.
Yeah, we
Can't get away.
Discussion, being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
This last agenda item does not need action. That's on there by my mistake. That's, like I said earlier, that's what happens when the suit takes a week off. I messed up the agenda. So this one does not need to be voted on.
Okay.
Initially, I thought that the license needed to be renewed, but it doesn't expire until, I guess,
The end of the
another calendar year. But we do need your signature on it, so hopefully we can get that signed and issued.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I did some legwork, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a question, do they need a victor's license, or is the victor's license necessary in order to hold the liquor license?
They definitely need both.
They
I
have
think-
one,
They have one for
Yes,
the
they have
donut
one.
shop.
they have one for Dunstable Country Liquors
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
And you have that for us to sign, because I think there was some conflict earlier about the
Oh, the
address.
address.
Yeah,
Feel sore.
beauty.
All right. We good? Anything else? You sign this one here?
Under
Yes.
license. board.
Okay.
Nice.
Motion to adjourn.
Sign this first.
You can't do two things like bullet.
I'm Greek, I can do things however I want. No, it's gonna be right, it's just gonna,
There it is. Yeah, I can do things.
however I feel like it, yeah. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.